I am Vinnie Tortorich. Folks, your good intentions have been stolen. But don't worry, I'm here to help you get them back. You may be soft and succulent at the beginning of this process, but hang in there. Before long, you will be lean and mean, guaranteed, just like the guy I'm looking at on my video right now. Folks, you can go listen, you can go watch it if you want to on YouTube. Most people don't pay attention to me on YouTube, but they will hear this guy everywhere else. He is an emergency medical doctor, but we're going to be talking a lot about what I call the RPM gauge today. He'll probably take that and steal that now because, we could call it the human RPM gauge. I'm talking about CGM machines, folks, and I'm talking about none other than Dr. Paul Kolodzik. Screwed up his name, Kolodzik. How you doing, Paul?
I'm doing great.
It's great to have you on, man. I'm a little pissed off right now. I'm gonna just be honest with you.
Why is that?
It's funny you should ask. The other day, I put a thing up on my Instagram. 3 foods you should not have for breakfast. The first thing I said is don't have creamer, because creamer is not cream. Well, a few people had a problem with that part. But I get that because people are, wait a minute. Creamer is not cream. I get that because we've been educated by the companies selling the crap, right?
Sure. Yeah.
The other thing I said you shouldn't have is any type of breakfast cereal, whether it's hot or cold. And being a good old Southern boy that I am, I said that includes grits and oatmeal. And then the third thing I said you shouldn't eat is bacon, turkey bacon, because a turkey doesn't make bacon, right? They have to doctor it up a bunch to get it to taste like a reasonable facsimile of bacon.
Why would you want to eat that anyways?
Thank you. Well, some people were like, wait, turkey bacon? I thought that was good. The cholesterol, and we're going to get into that whole cholesterol thing. But some people were confused about the creamer, but boy, people were fucking butthurt. And I do mean butthurt over the fact that I said oatmeal. Who is this crackpot? Who is this guy? Look at him with this pink shirt on. When they have to start attacking your clothes with ad hominem, that they don't have much of an argument. So I came back and I did a second post. I said, look, I'm sorry most of you guys were butthurt over my comments about oatmeal. But, and people writing, my grandpappy lived to be 105, ate oatmeal every day, never had a weight problem. Great. I get it. But the point I made in my second video was oatmeal per cup has 28 grams of carbohydrates. Now, I get it. It's not a simple carb, and some dietitian is going to tell you that somehow it's a magical, special, complex carb that doesn't operate the same way, and they would be correct. It doesn't operate the same way. Instead of causing a spike, it causes a load. So your body has to keep releasing that insulin. So I explained this in a second video. And of course, people called me a heretic and I should be hung and I wear a tinfoil hat and on and on and on. You're a guy, you work in emergency rooms, and you're worried about metabolic health. What do you say about oatmeal? I'll just sit back and enjoy my coffee and please tell me I'm right or I'm wrong.
I just follow the CGM numbers, and the CGM numbers say that it's going to spike your insulin. Generally, you're right, not as high as, maybe, refined flour, but it's going to spike your insulin and it's going to keep it there for a long time. So, it's those kind of foods that got us where we are today. And so I appreciate your efforts to re-educate people.
And was I also correct to say that a cup is 28 grams and no one ever eats a cup? A bowl is more like 2 cups, and they put nature's sugar turds on there, also known as raisins. And they always put some either honey or maple syrup or something. Am I right, wrong? Brown sugar comes to mind.
Yeah. So where are you getting to? 45, 50 grams of carbs?
I said it was probably equal to 2 Coca-Colas. worth
Okay.
of carbs, more or less,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
You might do better with the Coke because you'll get a spike and it'll come down. You'll just move on with your day. But
Yeah.
you're getting that load and your body has to keep covering that. Am I wrong? Please tell me I'm
No, no, you're talking about glycemic index stuff, and
yeah.
that's absolutely true.
One comment I saw, a guy says, well, you're recommending eggs, but an egg only has, 6 grams of protein. Okay, he's correct, but oatmeal only has 3 or 4 grams of protein. So per cup, let's say you ate 3 eggs, right? You get 18 to 20 grams of protein, depending on the egg. Can we agree on that?
I agree.
No carbohydrates. Can we agree on that?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Oh, but
And
it's got all that bad cholesterol in
hang on.
it.
Paul, don't get ahead of yourself. See, he's chomping at the bit over there. He's chomping at the bit. Okay. So let's say you wanted to get the equivalent amount of protein out of your oatmeal that you're getting from 3 eggs. Well, now you got to eat 3 cups. So 3 times 28 comes to like a gazillion. I mean, think about it. And by the way, I'm going to go ahead and guess. I didn't look it up. I'm going to guess that the protein from oatmeal is not a complete protein. You're not going to get all of the amino acids that you would get from the embryo of a chicken. What say you, Doc?
Yeah, you're right. It does not, oatmeal does not have all the essential amino acids, but don't ask me which one it has and which ones it doesn't.
Yeah, I don't know either. I just know that. Look, and I get it. Pea protein, soy protein, they come closer. They do come close, but you have to eat so much of that stuff to even get close to the same amount you would get from animal protein. That is not even a toss-up.
Yeah.
Right? Well, if I was gay, Doc, I would marry you because I got to tell you, my wife has never said I was right that many times in a row, ever, in the history of my wife. So there you have it, folks. Thank you for listening to the podcast. We had this great doctor on. So, Paul, you're in the emergency room. I kind of feel that you remind me of my friend Gary Fettke,
Well,
who,
that's a compliment.
listen, Gary is a guy that was just chopping off limbs because people had neuropathy. And then
Yeah,
he happens upon low carb and he figures out he doesn't have to cut limbs off anymore. He could just get people to do this, save their limbs. Right. And boy, that caused
absolutely.
all kinds of trouble.
Yeah.
You're in the emergency room. What do you see in there? What happens to you to make you go down this metabolic road?
Yeah, it's vascular disease and obesity. What gets all the headlines in the emergency department is the gunshot wounds and the overdoses and the bad traumas. But what we see every day in, day out, is vascular disease, peripheral vascular disease, congestive heart failure, strokes, infections from diabetes. I mean, that's the bread and butter. That's what we do all day long. And then, the associated musculoskeletal issues from obesity. So that's what kind of drove me to this, just seeing that stuff all day long.
You look a lot younger than me. How old are you?
Oh man, I'm actually I'm in my well, I'll tell you, I'm 65.
Oh, Jesus. You see, I'm 60 and you look younger than me. That's what always ticks me off.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to go there.
You look like you're 50.
Thank you. You're
You're
very
5 years
kind.
older than me.
And
Now
I
I
think,
this sure is over with. I can't do
and if I was gay, I'd marry you.
that. We'd be a fabulous couple. Um, so okay, you're in there, you're seeing problems. You know what causes the problems. Obviously, 65 years old, you're going through medical school in the I'm going to guess the late 1970s, going into the early 80s. They're not teaching you guys about this stuff. Am I correct?
Absolutely. They're teaching us that cholesterol is bad. So, they're teaching the food pyramid stuff.
How do you change your mind? What happens?
It was all the disease I saw over so many years. And understand, and then, following people like you and doing a little research and really beginning to understand that our problems kicked off in the late 70s, early 80s when we started listening to the government and avoiding fat and eating carbs. I mean, you follow the curves, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah. Yeah. We talked about it in the first movie a lot, Fat, a documentary. Um, when you were going through COVID, were you in the emergency room through COVID?
Yes.
Now, and I hate touching the third rail of COVID in these podcasts because it gets political. I'm not
Yeah.
a political guy. I don't do politics. But early on in the COVID thing, I just thought anyone who got COVID was going to die because that's what the news was telling us.
Yeah. No, I
The
agree.
body bags are lining up. Look at these body bags. They're lining up. The morgues can't take another person. All of this stuff. We're hearing all of this stuff, right? I'm not seeing it where I live, but I'm hearing it. It was always in some faraway land like New York
Yeah.
and LA. And then when I called my friends there, they were like, the news is saying it, but we don't know what they're talking about.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
This kind of thing. What was actually going on? Were you guys lining up body bags and people in the hallway dropping dead? What was going on?
No, I mean, a lot of people had mild disease, you know. The people, though, that did get hurt were the people with metabolic health problems, you know, the overweight people or the people with high blood sugars or whatever. But no, I mean, it was a strain, and I did see bad cases. We sent people to the ICU that got intubated, but I think you're right. It was not nearly what was portrayed in the press.
So from that, I'll never forget because look, I was confused. People kept asking me, "What do you think?" It's like I don't think. I don't know because no one knows, right? But what I did know was, you know, everybody in Louisiana that my mom was telling me died, they happen to be somewhere in their 80s,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
80s and 85 and 90. So she was like, "Oh, remember old Mr. So-and-so? Yeah, he died of COVID and the whole thing." And I remember the first person, one of my brothers got COVID. And I was like, "Oh, shit. Should I go down there? Do I need to see him? He's going to die." This is early days of COVID.
yeah,
I talked to him 3 days later and I hear noise in the background. I was like, "How are you doing, man?" I thought he was like in the bed, trying to catch a breath and the whole thing. I was like, "What do I hear in the background?" He goes, "Oh, I'm in the pool." I was like, "You're what?" He goes, I said, "I thought you had COVID." He goes, "I do." I said, "So what are your symptoms?" He goes, "I can't smell cheese and I can't taste a whole lot." But he goes, I'm having a swim." I was like, "Well, aren't you supposed to die or something?" And he goes, "I hope not." Never went to a doctor, never went to the hospital. Doctor said, "Just go home and rest.
yeah.
Stay away
So
from
you
work."
know how those numbers got pumped up is that anybody that would have incidental COVID and would die, then they were a COVID death. It doesn't matter if you just had a heart attack or a bad stroke or a congestive heart failure or whatever. If your eighth diagnosis was COVID, then it was a death attributed to COVID.
Yeah, I heard that a couple of times on the news, but again, it sounded like more, political
Yeah,
positioning.
yeah,
And then, I kept telling my wife, "I think it's only old people. I think it's only old people. I think." Well, one day, because my wife is British and she's reading the BBC news, and she goes, "Aha, aha, here's a woman. It says right here in the article, perfectly healthy. She was 38 years old and she died of complications due to COVID." And I said, "Let me see that." And I grabbed her phone and I'm looking at it. And I get down to the pictures of this young woman. And I said, "Serena, look at her." She goes, "What?" I said, "Look at these photos of the woman. They have a bunch of photos. She's at least 400 pounds." And I said, "I can't tell her height, but I don't think she's more than 5'5". She goes, "Well, that can't contribute, can it?" I said, "Look, I don't know anything about COVID, but what I do know
absolutely.
is
Yeah,
you cannot be that size without comorbidities." Let me explain, honey, what comorbidities mean. It means that anything else can come in and wipe you out. The flu, COVID, you get in a car accident, you know, anything can take you out when you're that size. What say you?
No, no, I agree. So it was kind of a bimodal curve in terms of the deaths we saw. It was the old people and it was the people with bad metabolic disease, with obesity itself being one of the primary risk factors.
So we shouldn't be worried about cholesterol. We should be worried about all these other risk factors. Um, Triglycerides being in the 800s. I see that all the time. I see A1Cs of 11 and 12. I
Yeah,
see non-alcoholic fatty liver disease.
a lot of it.
All of this stuff exists, right? All of these people are on CPAP machines. I saw a commercial where it was a CPAP. I don't watch commercial television. I was somewhere else, hotel or something. CPAP commercial comes on, right? I'm like looking at this going, see, and then I started thinking a couple of commercials later, here's the stuff you need to clean your CPAP machine. And then another commercial came on. Hey, you could get medical blah, blah, blah to pay for your CPAP and bring you a new thing. I was like, wow, I didn't know what a CPAP machine was 15 years ago. And no one had them when I was a kid. Now everyone I know has a CPAP machine, and every commercial is either trying to sell you a new one or trying to get you to clean the one you have. When did you start seeing CPAP machines?
I'm trying to remember. Yeah, I don't know, 15 years ago, something like that.
Out of the blue, right?
Out of the blue. I mean, it's, a new diagnosis that, could be billed for and reimbursement could be obtained for it, I guess.
So anything they can sell through insurance, then they just tell everyone they have that problem.
Yeah. Yeah. Create diagnoses. We've done a lot of that in this country.
Do you remember? I tell this to people and they think I'm making it up. I tell them that when I was a kid, 5 years younger than you, no one knew their cholesterol numbers. Most people didn't know the term cholesterol.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Then all of a sudden, everyone knew their number because doctors started telling them their number. And if you had over a certain number, it was considered high cholesterol and you should be on a drug. You should be on a statin.
Yeah.
Is it me just remembering this wrong, or did that number get lowered at some point? I remember.
Yeah, I think it was initially in the 240 range and now it's 200.
Yeah, I thought it was 250, and then it became 200, and some doctors are saying 180 because they realize, hey, if we keep lowering this, we can catch more flies, less honey, right? Just scoop more people up. And then we started hearing, well, they started educating us more. Well, you have two cholesterols. That's all they would tell us about was the two. You had HDL, and that was the friendly, happy face cholesterol. And then you had the gangster of cholesterol. You had LDL. That's the one that's going to kill you. That's the widowmaker of cholesterols. So I started looking down that road and it's like, I wonder why they're saying one is good and one is bad. Because all of a sudden, everyone I knew became an expert on cholesterol. They knew about the high and the low, and this ratio had to be this, that, and the other thing. I look around and I go, wait a minute. Why are they bastardizing the low density lipid? What's going on? I started asking a few guys like you, what do you think they told me?
Regarding LDL?
Regarding LDL. Why did that become the bad cholesterol?
I'm not certain.
Because statins lower LDL much more efficiently than it lowers HDL. Yeah. So we're going to make this a bad one.
Yeah.
And we're going to talk about this weird ratio that you need to have, right? Yeah. See, none of this stuff happens in a vacuum. They figure it out and then they educate people. People used to go to the doctor and go, hey, doc, what's my problem? Now people go to the doctor and tell them their problem because they heard it on a freaking Ozempic commercial. Every commercial on television goes, you may want to go educate your doctor. They don't say it in those words, but that's what they mean. Yeah. Talk to your doctor about remdesivir or Revivavu. Go talk to let your doctor know. And the doctor who has what, 10, 12 minutes with the patient is going to go, here you go. Here's a script. Get out of here. That's all they're doing. They're not able to be doctors. Yes, no.
Now, that's the reason I have this practice. It's because those docs, primary care docs, get 20 minutes with the patient. That's just enough time to adjust your hypertension medicine, maybe get you started on insulin. There isn't time for anything else. I feel sorry for those guys.
I do too. I tell people when they do the consults with me, I'll say, listen, I don't hate doctors. I love doctors. Doctors saved my life. I had cancer. A doctor saved my life. But when you go to medical school and you leave there with more than $500,000 worth of debt, and you can't start a practice on your own, so you have to go with a big company, right? You have to go to these big giant companies. Big giant companies go, look, we'll take care of you. We'll pay for everything, but you got to talk the company line. You got to toe the line.
Yeah.
And you said 20 minutes. I think you're being generous, Doc. I've had doctors tell me 12 minutes.
Yeah.
They want us in and out in 12 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean that's why I mean I compliment the primary care docs because there's no I mean people come to me because they have a thirst for this other stuff and their docs do not have the time and sometimes the expertise to spend with it. They're so busy. I call it disease maintenance. They're just, managing disease rather than helping people get healthy.
Yeah. And the thing and I'm sure you hear this all the time too. People get angry. I'll do, because I do consults every day and people will call me they'll go, wait a minute. How is it I was on 12 medications, literally 12 in some cases. My doctor was telling me I'd be on this medication the rest of my life. I was told I could never get rid of fatty liver disease. I was told my hypertension would never go away. I was told I would always have high blood pressure. I was told I would always have an A1C above 7. Why is it that I'm off of everything now and my doctor didn't know? I always say it's not that your doctor didn't know. Your doctor didn't have time to deal with you. And it's not your doctor's fault.
Yeah,
Right?
I agree. Managing that stuff healthy outcome is not within the paradigm of mainstream medicine anymore.
Do you see any my friends like Tro Kalajian, Dr. Avadia, Brett Shear, I can go on and on and on, Eric Westman. They're guys that have gotten out of sick care and gotten back into healthcare.
Yeah.
You're doing the same thing. Do you see a shift? Do you think there'll be enough of a shift so that this can continue on?
Yeah, I'd like to be optimistic, but I think, our practices, like what we're doing and, the other, well-known people that you just mentioned are doing it is, it's kind of a concierge type practice because insurance companies don't value the type of stuff that we're doing, unfortunately. So I'd like to be optimistic about it, but I think that it's going to be hard to change the standard practice. It's basically Wall Street companies and healthcare systems that hire docs anymore. And it's a minority that are doing things like we're doing, carving time out to address patients' needs.
Can you talk to people? Obviously, do you take any clients over the internet or deal with people that way?
Yeah. I'm in Ohio, Arizona, Indiana, and Florida.
So you can work several of the states, but
Yeah.
I think Tro is in like 48 of the 50
Yeah,
now.
he's in a lot of them. Yeah.
So are you going to continue to branch out to get more, qualified?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, what I'm doing now is training a couple of physician assistants to work with me to help handle the volume of patients. But, the more we can grow these practices, the more people we can help. Because, I mean, you've heard Tro talk. He is so
Yeah.
busy. Schedule is full. And so, I think our mission really is to provide good care to patients and then, get additional providers on board with doing the same.
Before we even continue, we'll do it again at the end of the show, but people have short attention spans. Give me the states again and then tell me where they can find you.
Okay. I'm in Ohio, Indiana, Florida, and Arizona. And the name of my practice is metabolicmds.com. So it's the word metabolic and then mds.com. But you can, if spell my last name again, Kolodzik or something like that. You Google that, you'll find me on social media.
Yeah, and folks, I'll put it in the show notes. It'll be at the end of the show. We'll say it one more time at the end of the show, because people come to me and they'll say, "What was that doctor's name? Who was that doctor?" I always end up sending them either to Tro or Ovadia, or sometimes Verta Health. I'll just go to Verta Health.
Yeah,
they'll
yeah.
sort you out. But you guys are out there, and you can help these people in those states, and that's wonderful. I want to do a quick ad, and then I want to get into the CGM machine and how people, I call it a machine, but it's a device. And we can explain what that does and how it works. Folks, Villa Capelli Olive Oil is the longest running sponsor of this show. Villa Capelli, I'm going to say something that I'm not very proud of, but I did this the other day. On Sunday, Serena and I decided to lay out by the pool and get a little sun. Always good to get a little natural vitamin D. Worked really hard that morning. I training to climb Mount Whitney again. I was worn out. Figured I'd just lay on that like an alligator, just lay out by the pool, and took some Villa Capelli like my grandmother used to do when I was a kid. I'm Italian, Paul. And I took some and I rubbed it through my hair. I got it in my scalp. Boy, did that feel good. I ended up putting a little bit on my hands, got it on my arms, on my legs. Man, I was acting like a true wop out there the other day. I get it. Villa Capelli is very expensive. Folks, you shouldn't be rubbing it on your body all the time. But man, that felt good. And after I showered that night, oh, man, there's nothing like getting that olive oil on your skin. But it's even better if you get it in your body. That's the point here. Get Villa Capelli. Don't waste it the way I did. Get it in your body. This is good stuff. Villa Capelli. Promo code Vinnie saves you 10%. If you spend more than $125 after the discount, you'll get free shipping. The 3-liter tins are back in stock right now. I keep seeing you guys on Instagram and on Twitter buying 2 and 3-liter tins at a time. That's the way to do it. But folks, I'm telling you, there's an olive oil shortage right now. Olives are not plentiful in Italy or Spain. Get on top of it. Get as much as you can while you can. Promo code Vinnie, Vinnie. Don't waste it the way I did, but boy, did it feel good. Villa Capelli, let them know we sent you. We're talking to Dr. Paul Kolodzik. And Paul, we were talking a little bit at the beginning of the show because I wanted to be validated about sugar load, glucose loads versus, just a spike. CGM machines or devices. Explain what they are to the average person and exactly how they work.
So continuous glucose monitor, or CGM, gives you a 24/7 reading on your blood sugar. So previously reserved for diabetics only, and I just think it's crazy that only diabetics would be using these devices because they provide so much great information to non-diabetics and pre-diabetics. So you put these on the back of your arm. It sounds like a stapler. Doesn't hurt at all though. And then there's a little sensor under your skin that equilibrates with the capillary blood glucose in the area. And 24/7, anytime, you can see what your blood glucose is. You can see how different foods affect, whether it's going to spike, go down, stay up for a while. It's a great tool. I'll tell you, I use it in a diagnostic phase for my patients, and I have people that come to me and it's like, I just want to lose 20 or 30 pounds. I mean, I just want to lose 20 or 30 pounds. So, okay, well, let's put a CGM on you for a couple of weeks. Blood sugar's 220, 230. I mean, I have patients that they just have blown through the pre-diabetic phase. They're already diabetic and they had no idea. So these are great tools.
I was with, I don't know if you know Dr. Mark Cucuzella. Do you know Mark?
I know Mark. Yeah, actually, he wrote a testimonial for the book.
Oh, good. Mark, Mark and I were somewhere together talking at some conference, and he wears one all the time because he's a type 1 diabetic. And I would say, Mark, take a couple of sips of this wine here. We were having dinner one night. And then let me see, because you look at it on your phone, right?
Yeah.
It's like having a tachometer in a car. You see exactly what the engine's doing in real time, right? And I was trying to get Mark to eat all kinds of crap. Of course, he wouldn't. But I like playing, I like playing science and seeing how that works. And my question has always been, why is it only for people who are already diabetic? What is there? Is that the insurance companies not wanting people to know that Ozempic's not working? Is it, what is it? I'm always looking for the angle. There's always an angle.
No, I think it's just a cost thing, and it's worse. It's worse than that, Vinny. It's not only people that are diabetic, but most insurances will only reimburse if you're diabetic and on insulin. If you're diabetic and you aren't on insulin, then CGMs often are not covered. So I assume it's just a cost issue that they don't want to pay for a wider population. It doesn't make sense long term because you could stamp out a lot of disease before it gets very expensive.
Let's say me, I don't have any problems. I want a CGM. I want to pay for it out of my pocket. What does it cost?
Usually around $30. So it's interesting that if you have insurance, usually that will reduce the cost, but a 2-week CGM is around $30.
So to have it on for 2 weeks, $30.
Yeah.
What if I wanted to have it on for 6 months? Is it $30 every 2 weeks?
Yes, it would be $30 every 2 weeks. But you don't necessarily need one persistently. I think you need one for a period of a few months until you modify your eating habits, and then you can use it intermittently after that just to keep yourself on track.
So if you're completely broke, people are saying, oh, yeah, I don't have money for that, $30.
Yeah.
But they do have, $10 a day for Starbucks.
Yeah.
They do, these are all the things I tell people all the time. This is your life. $30 for 2 weeks, $60 a month. Let me put it a different way. $720 a year. I just did the math for you. Okay. For your life. You're trying to save your effing life. And people are sitting there going, too expensive. I can't do it.
Well, and it's an investment. Think of the disease what's cheaper? Getting a CGM for a little bit or being on insulin for the rest of your life.
You see, the point I'm trying to get to here, Paul, is no one, and I do mean no one, wants to know. Because once you know, you can't unsee it. Right? Once you know, you have to make a change. Right?
Yeah.
That's all it is.
Yeah.
I've had people come on, I have that PDF at VinnieTortorich.com. They get the PDF. It's a 27-page, 26-page cheat sheet. All you have to do is read that, and you can lose all. I've had people, I gave it away for free over 300,000 times. Now we charge $10. I've had more people lose weight on that free PDF, never called me, never paid me a dime, just read that and said, okay, I'll try this, lost 1, 2, 3, 350, 400 pounds, doing nothing else except cutting out processed foods, sugars, and grains. Period.
Yeah.
And once you know the truth, you can't unknow the truth, right? It's one of those things. And I think people, when they come up with, I don't have that kind of money, or I don't know, my doctor won't give me one. I've always said, you find a guy living on the streets, he will find a way to get heroin every day. That's a fact, right? If you're a drug abuser on the streets, you don't have a house to live in, everyone's kicked you out of their house, you're living on a sidewalk somewhere in squalor, you will find some way, you will invent some way to get enough drugs to get a high that day. True? False? Am I making this up?
Absolutely true. So
why can't you afford $60 a month, $720 a year? Did I do that math right? 60 times 10 is 600 times 2. Yeah, it's 720. Yeah.
Well, you're right about you can't unsee it, because I have these patients come in and they see these spikes on their CGMs for the first time on the app on your phone. And I'll be honest with you, it changes many of their lives because you use the words correctly. You can't unsee it. Once you see it, you know what those carbs do to you. And your life can be changed from that.
Explain what being metabolically broken actually means, and talk a little bit about insulin and how we become resistant to it, and do it in a way that pretend I'm in second grade and,
Okay.
and give me a rundown.
Okay. Let me give you my 2-minute physiology approach. And I'll tell you, Vinny, this is the way I understand it. So it's easy for me to explain it to patients.
Okay.
You eat a carb, no matter what kind of carb it is, it's going to be blood glucose. I mean, this is a little bit of an oversimplification, but blood glucose in your system, in a short period of time. When blood glucose is there, then insulin gets released from the pancreas. Okay, so far, so good. That insulin helps that blood glucose go into your muscles so that you can use it for energy. But if your blood glucose is always high, then that extra blood glucose has to go somewhere. Insulin resistance is those muscles saying, stop, stop, insulin. We aren't going to listen to you anymore. We've got enough energy. We've got enough glycogen and glucose in our muscles. We don't need any more. So stop. And when they resist that insulin, that extra blood glucose goes to the liver and gets converted to fat. So, I don't have to tell you, fat doesn't make you fat. Once you get that conversion of fat, it gets deposited around the middle. What we try and do is just reverse that process. What we do is try to bring that blood glucose down. So instead of having too much energy, those muscles are looking around saying, hey, we need extra energy here. The blood glucose is a little bit low here. What are we going to do? And they look down at that midsection and they see those fatty acids and they say, that's our source of energy. We're going to go ahead and use that. And that's when the fatty acids get broken down, sometimes a byproduct of ketones for those. And that's when you start to lose weight and improve health.
Gary, my buddy Gary Taubes, in his second book on the subject, Why We Get Fat and What to Do About It, he eloquently explains, and that's what I love about Gary. He can take hard science and make it simple. He explains that, sometimes you'll see a 400 or 500-pound person and they're walking down the street and they're drinking like a 64-ounce Coke. I told the story of my neighbor a couple of weeks ago, very nice woman, and she meant no harm by this. She goes, my husband and I were in a restaurant last night, and this woman, she was at the next table, and she goes, I couldn't help but notice her size. She was just humongous. And I said, yeah. And she goes, she ate a full meal. And I went, okay, yeah, most people do. And then she had a big dessert at the end. She ate the whole thing. And she goes, that's the problem with those people. And I said, first off, let's go back. They're not those people. They're just people. But I said, would you believe that that woman's brain thought that she was starving still? That she's emaciated and starving. She's been getting the signals crossed for so long that the ghrelin and leptin that's released along with insulin and cortisol and a few other hormones is sending the brain the message that I'm still emaciated, I'm still hungry, and I need more. And she goes, well, why couldn't she stop? I said, okay, let me put it to you a different way. If I came to you one day before your period started every month, and I said to you, I want you to concentrate really, really hard this month and don't have a period. Can you do that? And she goes, absolutely not. I said, why not? And she says, because it's dictated by hormones. I said, okay, you just said it yourself. You have no control over your period. When it starts, when it stops, the hormones in your body will control that. She goes, yes. But what does that have to do with this? I said, it's exactly the same thing, just a different set of hormones. She doesn't have a choice. Now, if you educated that woman and said, hey, listen, I know you've tried everything. I know you maybe you've had your stomach cut out. Maybe you've done all this crazy stuff and you've tried and you think I'm just broken and I can't do this. But if you educate these people and say, just do A, B, C, and D, and they did lose the weight, now they can't unsee that. And that's the part I'm always trying to get people to do. I'm trying to get them to that, to where they can actually see how it works. Agree?
Agree. but your mission is to do that, and they are bombarded every day with the other message. Even the message as simple as fat is bad, reduce your fat, low fat diets are where it's at. So you and I are swimming upstream a little bit, because the food processing industry and the healthcare system are giving them a different message.
I would say
And the government too. The government's giving a different message too.
well, it's a Sisyphean effort because it's not just going upstream, it's trying to go up a mountain and pushing a boulder.
Yeah.
Because look, when we started making ground with keto, the first thing they do every year when they come up with the best diets is they start off by putting keto at the end, saying it's the worst diet. And if you do this, sure, you're going to lose weight and all of your metabolic numbers are going to get better, but you're going to die. I don't know how they come up with that, but they do it every year.
Yeah.
So they're still doing that, right? And then when that wasn't working anymore, they went, okay, not only are you going to die, but somehow a cow farted in North Dakota, and that's killing the planet. It's causing the polar ice caps to melt. They had to start changing the story because they went, wait a minute, no one's dying from this keto diet. As a matter of fact, they're getting healthy. I know, let's go after the polar ice cap. Let's show a polar bear floating on one piece of ice out somewhere and go, that polar bear is going to die because a cow belched in Southern California. Am I making this up?
No, sadly, you were not making it up.
I wish I could. I mean, in my third movie, I had people like Dr. Mitlerner, one of the foremost authorities on climate change in the world. And he even said, no, it has nothing to do with it. Zero. But we don't look at that. We just keep making up lies and just keep shoving those lies in further and further and further. And it's almost, like I said, it's not swimming upstream. It's Sisyphean. We're trying to get a boulder uphill. And as soon as you stop, it just rolls over you and you start at the bottom again.
That's why we can't stop.
Well, I'm getting old. I mean, I'm not as old as you, but we're getting old.
Thanks a lot. What's that?
We're just getting old.
I'm though, hanging around people like you, going to the Low Carb USA meetings. But you develop a passion, and even if you're getting old, you still have a passion for this stuff.
Paul, I didn't get a chance to read your book. I don't even have a copy of it, but our mutual friend, Dr. Ian Felt, said it's a wonderful book. And I'm just taking his word for it. Can you give us the name of the book and tell me a little bit about the book? Sell me on the book so we can get people to buy your book.
Okay. All right. Well, it's titled The Continuous Glucose Monitor Revolution for Non-Diabetics. And that's the initial point, to push it for non-diabetics. And it really kind of outlines how we use CGMs as part of, a comprehensive metabolic health program. And it, starts with the diagnostic phase that we talked about, and then we use it to guide diet. So, these are tremendous tools that I think should be widely available to, quite honestly, to most adults, certainly any adult that probably has a metabolic syndrome profile. And then I just kind of go through the steps about really how you integrate this device into a comprehensive program, in terms of, a low carb approach, which you were very versed on. And I push some patients to keto if they want to go there, but not everybody wants to go there, so a lot of them stay low carb. We integrate strength training because it helps with the insulin resistance issue. I'm preaching to the choir here, but intermittent fasting as well. So you use these devices as part of a comprehensive program, and the book is really a step-by-step guide as to how to do that.
When did the book come out?
It is actually in pre-order now, but available for order on Thursday this week.
Oh, so this podcast probably won't come out for 2 weeks. So folks, and it's going to be on Amazon, right?
Yeah, it's on Amazon. Yeah.
Okay, so folks, this podcast won't be out for a couple of weeks. So by then, the book will be out. I'm going to actually buy a copy. I'm going to go get the pre-order copy right now so that I can read it when it comes out. And you could probably, it's going to be on Amazon, so please go through VinnieTortorich.com, click through the banner, bookmark it, use it every time. We're going to also, once I read the book, we're going to put it in Vinnie's book club. You know, I like to read everything that's in a book club so I can say, hey, yeah, look, I read it. You guys are going to want to read it. So go check it out. Give us the name of that book again.
The Continuous Glucose Monitor Revolution for Non-Diabetics.
I can't wait to read it because, like I said, you know, this is like an RPM gauge for your body. You can see exactly what's happening in real time. Things like the dawn effect. You know, people will say to me, "Oh, you know, all day long I'm fine. I wake up in the morning. I didn't even eat anything the night before. I wake up." Can you talk a little bit about the dawn effect? Because everyone always wants to know about that.
Yeah, the dawn effect is just a circadian rhythm thing. Your body, early in the morning, 4 a.m., 5 a.m., knows that you're going to be gearing up for the day. And so you get a little bit of a cortisol release, sometimes a little bit of an adrenaline release, and that makes your blood sugar go up a little bit. So that's all the dawn effect is. And it's, transient, and then it comes back down if you don't have breakfast or if you have a low carb breakfast.
Have you noticed that people, and sometimes because you're looking at CGMs all the time, a lot of times I know guys that go carnivore where they're just eating meat and eggs. And they say, well, wait, Vin, I don't understand. I'm only eating meat. There's no sugar in that, but it goes up. And I'm always explaining the cause and effect of gluconeogenesis. You want to explain that a little bit so they can understand it?
Yeah, I mean, it's just when your blood sugar is low for a period of time, then your body is going to go ahead and tap some stored glycogen. And that can happen either in the liver or in the muscles. That's the two places glycogen exists. And so you're still going to have a supply of some blood glucose. That's why your blood glucose never goes to zero, even if you never eat any carbs.
Yeah.
You're always going to have at least some supply of blood glucose.
You know, I get asked all the time because I lift weights every day, 6 days a week at least, but I also do a lot of aerobics. I have time on my hands during the day. I work at night, so I use my day to take care of me. And people go, "Wait a minute! If you don't eat sugar, how you can't possibly?" It's like, listen, I'm telling you, I've climbed to the top of Mont Blanc, completely no sugar whatsoever. You know, I've every mountain climb I've done in the past 15 years, zero sugar. I could get on my spinner for 2 hours and watch a football game, zero sugar, none whatsoever. And I stay in zone 2 or high zone 2, which means I'm never tapping into my blood glycogen. You could just go on forever like that. And you just, the exhaust pipe is your mouth. You're just pushing out the butyrates and you're just, wasting fat. Down on top of fat is not that difficult.
Yeah. So, Vinny, I have, you do a well-rounded workout routine. I have a lot of people come to me that are middle-aged, metabolic, those are kind of my people, the
Right.
metabolic syndrome, middle-aged people. I know some people use CGMs to kind of fine-tune their bodies and workouts, but mine is really just working with the metabolic syndrome people. And they think I'm a little strange because I tell them not to worry about the cardiovascular stuff initially. I'm still a little bit of a traditionalist to break down workouts into cardiovascular and weight training, even though I know you're an expert in the high intensity interval training. But I just want to get people doing some strength training to begin with. And then, they can move on to getting the cardiovascular stuff in. But in terms of insulin resistance, the middle-aged women with the potential for osteoporosis, it's like they think I'm crazy because I tell them let's get you a weight workout regimen, weights, bands, body weight, whatever you want to do for resistance, and then we'll move you on to cardiovascular later on.
No, I couldn't agree more. I was just doing someone else's podcast somewhere else in Charlottesville, and they were asking me, they said, if we did one thing, should it be weight? And one guy was 55 and the other was turning 58 tomorrow. And they said, if we were going to do one thing, and they're not into fitness at all,
Yeah.
what would you do? And I said, strength training. And they said, over cardio? And I said, yeah, let me explain why. You're still circulating a lot of blood, number one. Number two, once you hit somewhere between your 32nd and 35th birthday, you start losing muscle.
Downhill from there.
Yeah, it just goes downhill, and you can keep that muscle on. Now, no one's going to win the sarcopenia game, right? At some point, it does take over. But if you do nothing, if you do the math,
Yeah.
you can lose half of your muscle mass by the time you hit 80. And that's
Yeah.
why, you know, when people fall, they break a hip because they go, wait, break a hip. That's not a muscle, that's a bone. People don't realize that soft tissue, muscles, bones, they all work in concert. They're all working together. And for some reason, I think people think of bones as being like steel girders or rebar or something like that, where it's just there. They don't realize that bones grow too, right? That
Yeah.
they need to keep healthy, and just keeping extra muscle in your body for as long as you can really stave off the effects of old age.
Yeah, that's a mobility issue. And I've seen that in the emergency department for years and years. I mean, people fall and you think, oh, people fall because, they've got a neurological issue or a joint issue. A lot of people fall just because they don't have muscle strength. I'm talking about elderly people. They
Right.
just don't have muscle strength. And I don't, my plan for trying to maintain mobility, as ever long I may be able to is, to keep that strength up. So, Vinny, don't skip leg day, okay?
Vinny never skips leg day. I just use myself in the third person. That's not good. But along with that is, and again, folks, I get it. This is Pollyanna bullshit. But since I work from mid afternoon until midnight, I use my mornings. I do things like I go out and skeet shoot and all that. But before I even leave the house, I spend an hour right here in my gym. I'm sitting in my gym right now, gym slash
Yeah,
office
yeah,
slash man cave on the other end. I spend about an hour doing stretching. And people go, well, that's some crazy discipline. Yes, it is. But this is my business, right? No one needs an out of shape trainer that can't move. I have to stay malleable. And I got to be honest with you, it's more than vanity. I see what I can do at 60 that a lot of my friends can't. Whenever I go back home and I run into my friends, I go, oh my God, this guy was the other captain on the football team with me. He can't
yeah,
move. And
yeah,
he's morbidly obese and, right?
yeah,
And it doesn't have to be that way. And I get it. People have families and kids and just all of it, right? But going back to the heroin guy on the street, if you really wanted something, you can get it. You just have to work at it.
yeah. You got to make it a priority,
Yeah.
and who wants to be immobile or in a nursing home for 10 or 15 years? It's really up to you.
Look, I don't know how long I'm going to be here. I've already beat leukemia once, but the years that I'm here, I want to be able to do it all.
Yeah,
That's just the long and the short of it. I just want to keep doing it. That's
yeah,
why I appreciate guys like you that are actually trying to help people and, not doing sick care, not doing standard of care and all these other words we hear nowadays. So I really do appreciate it. Is there anything you want to let us know before we get out of here?
no, other than to say, and this is in the end, at the end of the book. I get so much back from my patients. Just being able to see their progress. I mean, that's where the satisfaction in medicine comes from. It is just, actually, the last chapter of the book is CGMs change lives, and we've got a couple patient scenarios there. So CGMs do change lives. So no, I appreciate spending this time with you, and I appreciate you allowing me to talk a little bit about my practice and my book. And it's been a pleasure.
Now, one last time, give us the name of the book first, and then after that, give us the name of where people can find you in which states. I know one is Arizona, one is Ohio. I think, did you say Florida? No, you didn't say Florida.
Yeah, Florida and Indiana.
In Indiana, that's the one.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
so give all of it out so that people, folks, listen, pay attention, write it down. Don't ask me on Twitter. I'm not going to answer you.
It's the name of the practice is metabolicmds.com. So the word metabolicmds.com. And the name of the book is The Continuous Glucose Monitor Revolution for Non-Diabetics.
There you have it, folks. You know what to do. We all go shopping on Amazon. Before you go to Amazon, go to VinnieTortorich.com. Click through the banner. It puts a little coal on the fire, gets my train down the track. I'm able to keep the show free for a gazillion years in a row because of that. It pays for everyone who works behind the scenes here. So thank you guys for doing that. Also, Debbie wants me to let you know we have the NSNG ebook at VinnieTortorich.com. And we also have the Superfan page, and you guys can sign up for a consult with little old me if you wish to do so. And yes, sometimes when I get on the phone, people are surprised. They go, oh my God, I thought you were going to have some assistant talk to me. No, I'm the guy that gets on the phone with you. So appreciate hearing from you guys and love doing that. We mentioned all the sponsors. I don't know if we have any deals at any of my companies right now. Oh, I do have a big deal coming up at one of my companies, but I can't mention it because I don't know if it's going to be out by the time this podcast comes out. But what I'll do is I'll send you guys an email if you're on my email list. So when you're at VinnieTortorich.com, sign up for the email list, and you will be getting some good news really soon. So you want to do that. On behalf of Dr. I almost said Mark, Paul Kolodzik, I said that 3
Got
times.
it. You got it.
My name is Vinnie Tortorich. Put life into living and do it with enthusiasm.